to another episode of the Unraveled and Rising podcast. It is Michelle with my wonderful co-host,
Terry Diaragon.
Kimberly Diaz.
Hey, everybody. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that make me. Let's talk about sexuality. Sex. I mean, we could talk about sex, but I don't know how many of you would want to listen to it. But you know what I mean? We really wanted to talk about today is kind of how we see women, how women see themselves as sexual beings, especially throughout life. Because, you know, with us, we have the added bonus that we're in menopause age now, or around that time, or close to it for some of us. And so we have the perspective of, you know, starting out young, and now we're at this point in our lives. Two of us are single, one is happily married. And so we have different perspectives of how we see ourselves in this way. And it does impact Terry and I trying to go out and date or decide how we want to live, you know, be in that dating world and how we want to represent ourselves there. So we really wanted to have this conversation so we could talk about that. And especially if you are insecure or unwell mentally and you're growing. And I'll talk about my experience with that. But sometimes sex is used by women, or we are used in that way to try to fulfill some needs that we didn't get, or we're just doing whatever men tell us because we're too insecure to bring anything up. So I just wanted to know, I don't know, what do you think about that, Terry? What do you think about this conversation?
I want to also add to that, even people in the audience watching today that, you know, had those very precious, innocent moments taken from them. And they had no control over it, and it is a very scary thing to talk about, not a comfortable thing, and it may even be a very shameful thing to talk about.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And violent. I mean, it can, you know, something that is with you for the rest of your life.
Absolutely,
100%.
And how do you navigate something that is supposed to be a beautiful experience with two people that wasn't, you didn't see it that way, right?
That wasn't your experience.
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
And I think the three of us, we're bonded. We have a very similar stories as far as our teenage years in regards to, you know, kind of maybe starting earlier than we should have, because we just didn't know any different, and we just were trying to find some love somewhere. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, we see it as trying to find love, and sometimes men don't see it the same way, I think. And I'm not trying to put words in men's mouth or, you know, in their heads, but my perception is they see it differently, and they can separate it from love. And I think women have a harder time doing that. So that's where that disconnect sometimes happens.
And I do want to say that I have learned this recently in the past several years, that there are very, very healthy men out there. That see this in a completely different way, and can completely honor and value women in a healthy way. So if you're a woman out there looking for that, please know that it is absolutely possible, and there are men out there that will value and love you and it's possible for you. Bottom line.
Yeah.
100%.
And giving kudos for the men out there that are good standing men, because there are a lot of them. Yeah.
Well, and even me being in a, you know, marriage, in a loving marriage, we still, you know, sometimes have different needs when it comes to sex, and rejection when you're not, you know, trying to reject, and just really needing that emotional connection before the act. You know, so I mean, whether you're married, and I have a very loving husband that loves me, adores me, and treats me very well. So, I mean, but it still comes up in this conversations you have to have.
Yeah.
And I think too, when it kind of, just to start the conversation, I feel like, you know, when you have areas of your life where you're missing love, especially from your father, I feel like you go try to find it somewhere else, and you go try to find it in a relationship with a man. And that is definitely what happened to me. I kind of was a real awkward kid until I hit in between 8th grade and 9th grade. I grew taller and I got thinner. And not that I was just kind of chunky in middle school. And so between 8th and 9th grade, I really changed. And so when I hit high school, I was a different being. And all of a sudden, guys start paying attention to me. And I had no concept of what that even was, because I'd never had attention from boys, even in middle school or anything like that. So it was like a very odd concept to me for all of a sudden guys were showing an interest. And I, unfortunately, just went with any guy that showed interest because I was just so in need of that connection and that love that even, any guy that showed an interest, whether I liked him or not, I would just act like I liked him because I just was wanting some sort of connection. And also started having sex very, very young, 14. I was 14 when I started. And I'm just going to be in full disclosure here. I was very lucky in that the person that happened with was somebody that it was my first love, and we dated for like 8 months or something like that. You're for 14, but it was a very wonderful experience for me. And I know I'm very grateful for that. Cause like you said, Terry, not everybody has that, that going for them. But, I don't know. That was kind of why that started for me. I was so insecure that I just lashed on anybody who showed an interest. I don't know what you guys were like back then, but
you want to go?
You want to share anything?
Yeah, I was gonna say, for me, unfortunately, my first experience with sex was by being molested by a family member starting at the age of 8. So, from 8 to 12 years old, molested, raped, you don't even know what's happening. You don't, and then, him using other family members, like they want me to do that. I mean, it's just such a warped thing that it's not a special thing anymore, right? It's just something that you do because you have to do, and someone makes you do it. And you just kind of lay there. So that just really was not a good experience for me. And, moving forward, sex wasn't a big deal because that's what people did with you. And it just kind of almost, I don't want to say my identity, but it was something that I deserved, or, there was no positive in it whatsoever.
How do you and I'm just asking this question because I don't know the answer. How do you transition that to being intimate with someone you actually really cared for, that you really liked?
Yep.
Was there any joy in that, or no joy because it was your concept of it was so strange, at that point?
It took a lot of time, a lot of counseling, being with, I've shared before, I've been married 4 times, but my husband now is the first partner I've had that really sees me for me.
Yeah.
And has embraced that. And there's still some times that I disassociate and I can feel myself doing it. And he kind of recognizes it now too. And I'll have to, grab onto something or kind of get myself back, because that's what I did for so long, is I would just disassociate so I didn't have to be there.
Right.
Right.
Like we talk about, your body holds on to that. Your mind, you can try to forget it, but your body knows, and you're in that circumstance.
Yeah.
My body just wants to, disassociate. My mind wants to. So.
And as a child, like, what do you do?
Right.
This person is a adult who has overpowering you, and like, you go internal. So the only thing to do is dissociate and to kind of escape the best way that you can. So if anybody out there has experienced that, know that exactly what you did was the exact thing you needed to do to keep yourself safe at that moment. So there is no shame in that, and congratulations in getting yourself through what you needed to get through at that moment.
Yeah,
that's really
yes,
100%.
Yeah, for me.
And I think too. Sorry, Trey, go for it.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought, Michelle.
Nope, I didn't have a thought. I was going to start something new, so go for it.
For me, it was, my story's quite similar to yours, Michelle. I, very young, I learned, I kind of learned what I kind of had this perception of what women should look like. And I love my dad so much. He was a really great father. but I used to see him looking at Playboy magazines. And so, and he had daughters. And so he would say things sometimes, you know, like, don't overeat. You're going to get fat if you overeat. And so I had this very early perception of what women were supposed to look like. And when you kind of notice him looking at women and the way they look and the ones that catch his eye. And so I started to associate, oh, so this is what women are supposed to look like. And then just kind of putting together, and I was creating my own story, right? By the words that he was saying and by the things I was watching, I was creating this own narrative in my mind. So I was thinking, oh, well, men see women this way and they see them for this, right? So if men don't see you this way, right? If my dad doesn't see me this way, then how are other men going to see me? Right. So I started to think very early on. So as a teenager, and it's really funny because I started seeing pictures at an early age where my body weight started to change at a young age. And then when I went into middle school, I started to get teased a little bit when I was in elementary. And then when I went into middle school, I did this program over the summer and lost a ton of weight. And like you, Michelle, I went into 7th grade and started to get the attention of boys. And so it completely shifted everything and started having crushes on people and started liking that attention from boys. And so I did start early with getting into relationships young, and I ended up having my children very young. So, but I also did feel like I was doing things that I didn't want to do, but I was doing it to make other people happy, not necessarily because I wanted to do them.
100%. And then also, let's talk about that really quickly because, you know, women being sexualized, that's nothing new. I know that happens a lot now, but it was happening big time when we were young as well. I mean, think about the images we were watching on television. You know, like I would always say, my mom used to always say the Kardashians were the downfall of society. I go, Mom, we used to watch Hee Haw back in the day. Do you guys remember Hee Haw?
Yeah.
Remember the girls were in the little teeny short shorts with the boobs hanging out, and I'm like, come on, this has been around for a while. I mean, women
Benny Hill. I mean, Benny Hill was
just gonna say that. I was just gonna say Benny Hill, but it's like, you know, it was very common. That was typical back then that women were viewed as sexual beings. I think we've certainly come far, you know, since then, but that's still kind of how we're viewed. And so when you're looking at images like that, and Terry, this is where that comparing yourself to others things always comes in and affects you in a negative way, because we're looking at the images of the women on TV or in Playboy, and we're like, well, this is what men want, and I don't look like that. So therefore, I am not of value. I am not worthy. I'm not as good as those women. We still do that to this day. I mean, the images you see on and everything. And the young women of today, if you're listening to this, you know, that's where the trap is you feel like you have to be like that. And beauty, even though, you know, it's wonderful in youth and the beauty of youth and having all the beautiful young skin, it fades over time. If there's nothing else of value for you than that look, and and it's like, that's the thing where we have to, like, as women, you know, start valuing the fact that I am more than just this physical appearance. I am everything that's inside of me, and all the value and worth that I have inside of me. That's important. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Well, I feel like that they have it even harder now than we did, because every time you look on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever, you know, there's these women that are just look crazy, you know, enticing or beautiful or whatever you want to call it. And there's filters, and I mean, it's not realistic.
Well, look at AI now.
Yeah.
AI is coming up with things that you can't even tell the difference of whether it's AI or whether it's real. So and to a young teenager or someone that's just growing up, they don't know the difference and whether this is reality or whether it's something that's AI generated.
Yes. I completely agree. I printed this thing off, you guys, and I wanted to just share because this was something I put that it was all the ways that women can use sex, and I'm not saying use it in a way that we use it because we're emotionally unwell. You know what I mean? Saying that was what and then I've done many of these things because, like I said before, I just did whatever guys told me to do because I felt like that was the only way they were going to like me, is if I just succumbed to whatever their needs and desires were. And now that I think about that as someone who's in her mid 50s, I'm ashamed of it. There's a lot of shame I have for doing that and not standing up for myself. And so now, as a dating woman in my 50s, I'm trying to figure out how I work through that stuff to be able to have a healthy relationship now.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I'm struggling with. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts about that.
Well, one thing that I have learned over these last 6 years is that one, we teach people how to treat us.
Yep.
We definitely teach people how to treat us. So whatever we feel like we deserve and we allow, we are going to get.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so one thing that really helped me was defining, and actually when my coach, and you met him last week, actually asked me to define my values in a relationship, I didn't even know what that was. Like, to sit down and to like write down my values. And then I actually, when I was going through therapy, she had me do a non-negotiable list. And that was absolutely life-changing, because I tell you what, as you talk about going into the dating world, as you're going out there, and you have, I have people that are like, well, are you dating yet? Are you dating yet? And I'm just like, I went to dinner, and I've done coffee dates, and I've done stuff like that. And my son recently said something that cracked me up. He's like, well, Mom, I guess in your 50s, it's got to be a little harder. And I just said, not really. I said, you can get a hookup anytime you want. You know?
That is the truth.
But I said, and I have to say this to some of my friends sometimes when they ask, like, why are you still not dating? Like, why are you single? And you know what I realized when I asked that question? Because I think sometimes people think it's so bizarre. Like, why are you still single? And I think there's this perception that being single, there's something wrong. And I've had to say, being alone is a lot different than being lonely, right?
Yes.
And when you know what you're looking for, those things pop out very quickly. And when you go on a date or a coffee date with someone, and there's that little, I call it red flag, that pops up, and it doesn't align with your non-negotiable list, it is very apparent that is not the one. And so what a non-negotiable list does is it helps you sift through the ones that are not the right fit. And so it makes the group smaller, and the people that are available smaller. But I'm in my early 50s. I don't have time to be wasting time anymore with not the right people. I've got to be looking for the ones that align with me and my beliefs, my values, and the things that are important to me. And when I say non-negotiable list, not everything is going to be a checklist.
Right.
Yeah.
They're going to be, yes, they're going to meet this, and this. There are a top 3 that are completely non-negotiable. And for me, it's my faith. For me, it's, if they've got family, they have a good relationship with their kids, and that if they have a good community that can speak to their character. There are some things on there that are non-negotiable. Faith is number 1 for me. But the other things can be worked out. But there are a top few that if you don't meet those top things right away, then this just isn't a good fit. And that has helped me.
Well, and I was going to say, how many times have you seen a red flag in somebody, but you go ahead anyway, thinking that, oh, I'll change them, or they're going to change. Oh, God, yeah. And how many ever months or years later, you're like, oh, I knew it.
You know what? When you say that every single time, and what it did was it changed me. I lost myself. Trying to do that.
Me too. Yep.
So
and I think And I think too that insecurity in me and what we're talking about here, you choose those people because you feel like you're better than them somehow. And you're like, you somehow feel like it makes you feel good about yourself because you feel like if they've got issues, then I'm somehow uplifted because they've got issues and I'm going to try to change them or fix them or whatever. So I'm like, it's like a double whammy. It's like, I feel a little bit better because they've got issues, but also you're codependent because you're trying to fix them too. So it's like, you get all the needs are met with those insecure thoughts that you're having. All those thoughts and those paradigms they're all met with that.
I was just going to say that when I went through my relational recovery group, I didn't know what codependent was. And I was 100% codependent. Like I had to learn what it was and then go, this is what you have been doing. So identifying the behaviors of what I was actually doing was a way that I could actually, so that awareness, we talk about that all the time on here, is becoming aware. Why am I doing the things I'm doing? Become aware of them and then start changing those behaviors and saying, oh, okay. And doing it with not shaming yourself, but going, oh, okay, that's what I was doing. Let me put a name to it and let me just start doing something different.
Yes.
Well, and nurses, right? I mean, we're a prime example of codependency. You know, I mean, it's just,
we fix
Yep. We're going to fix everybody. We're going to make everybody better. We're going to, fill all those holes.
Well, and the thing is that, and that is so true, we go into that. And the one thing I had to realize about myself was that Terry couldn't fix herself. Like we're so good at trying to fix everyone else, but Terry couldn't fix Terry. So the problem was working on me. It was not trying to fix everyone else. It was working on Terry. Stop worrying about everyone else. Take some time to worry about you.
100%.
The other thing I wanted to bring up too is the fact that we need to relax a little bit because men don't care as much as we think they do about some of these things. They so don't. And we like put all these ideas in our head about, oh, we've got to do this. Men don't care about these nails. Men don't care that I got my hair colored necessarily. And I'm not saying I'm not putting men in all one category because obviously there's different variations. Some guys care about this or whatever. But I've had conversations with some of my male friends and they're like, we don't care. We do this stuff for other women. We want women to compliment us on our nails or on our hair or on our shoes. It's not for men. You know what I'm saying? That's one mistake that we make. But I mean, men just don't. One of my friend Jay, and he, was talking about this is what did it. I never forgot this. This conversation was years ago, but he was talking about. I think we were talking about breasts or something like that. Just he was one of my good friends from way back, and he said, "We'll take a look at pretty much any of them. It doesn't matter what she looks like. We'll take a look. We'll take a peek."
Oh yeah.
And he goes, and I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Oh yeah." So it's like we have all these ideas in our head that men are looking for this or that, the other thing, and we get all worked up about it. And they're just like wanting to find somebody that have a great connection with. And it's like I always think about that when I'm starting to get insecure, have these thoughts in my head. Michelle, you are creating this in your mind.
Yeah.
Men out there are not looking for what you think they're looking for. They just want a great connection with someone who they care about, whatever. So it's like I'm creating that for myself, and I have to keep reminding myself of that.
And what I've learned in the last several years is that men just want to know that they're good providers.
They just want peace, is what my friend told me. They just want peace. They don't want the arguing. They don't want the fighting. They don't want
they're actually very simple. And I think women can be too. I think we both can be. I think that I think that not understanding that each of us are simple, we complicate it, right?
So 100%. But I always think about that. He goes, "Yeah, we'll take a peek." I'm like, "Okay, really?" That just makes me laugh.
Well, and you said something that was so interesting when you said we do this for women, and I think that sometimes we do it for us. I think that sometimes
I do it for me.
Sometimes that we're doing it for. I just had an aha moment, right before this recording. I had my session with Dr. Ed, and I'm finishing my program with school, right? And we on our mastermind today, I was kind of being hard on myself and with some of the things I'm getting done, and I had to tell him. I said, it was just very important to me that I finish my program. I'm graduating with honors, and I want to graduate with my 4.0. Because when I was, you know, having my difficult time as a teenager, I felt like I was the black sheep. And like everybody didn't think Terry would succeed. And she was the least person that was going to do this. And so I told him this. These were my words today. I said, so I just want to do this for myself, not for anyone else. I want to do this for me because I always knew that I was capable of it. And I just want to do it for me. And he said to me something that was so interesting. He said, well, you go ahead and do it. He said, you go ahead and do what you need to do. But what I want you to just let me know when you get the lesson from that. And it sat with me for a minute. And I'm like, I had to message him right after the call. And I said, you said something that I'm going to have to sit with for a minute. And he said, it's not very complicating. And I sat and I had to message him right back. And I said, you know, I'm still looking for validation outside of me when I'm the one that needs to give it to myself. Like, yes. Okay, graduating with honors and a 4.0 is a done deal. But then what's next? What's next, Terry? I've got to validate Terry. There's nothing outside of me. I've got to find it within me, not outside of me. And so there's still this little paradigm within myself that goes back to way back when that I'm still kind of doing unconsciously.
Yes. Proving your worth.
Yeah. A little bit.
100%.
Yeah. He always says stuff that you're like,
I know. He said that today, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And it's so true. It's so true. Like, graduate with honors, great, but what do you what then?
And how many jobs really ever ask you?
I know.
I mean, really. You know, I remember when I went to school, it was like C's make degrees. Yay.
Yes. Well, and it truly is. It's me for me. It's only me competing with me.
And that's okay, as long as you know that. And then that's, I feel like that's totally fine.
I think so too. But I think sometimes I got to be aware that I'm doing it with a sledgehammer sometimes.
Yeah.
And being really hard on myself.
So you need to be doing it with a feather.
I know.
It's so true. I was going to ask Kimberly, you know, because I wanted to kind of learn more about what it's like in a healthy relationship like that. Like, what are some of the stuff that, I mean, I realize obviously you guys have different ideas, but how do you guys maneuver that? You know, those different needs. Sorry, I feel like I have an itch in my nose.
No, that's okay.
How do we maneuver that in a couple situation where, you know, there's times where you're feeling it differently than he's feeling it, and how do you guys maneuver that?
So we both have individual counselors. We've had several marriage counselors. So that's been, and we're starting to realize that we have it within us. It's really all about communication. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really is. And it sounds very simple, but when it's in the heat of things or in the, you know, middle of things, sometimes it's difficult. Like, you know, but you know, like last night there was a situation and I fell asleep, and then this morning, you know, he was upset by it. So he came to talk to me about it. And instead of me becoming defensive or trying to defend myself, I was just very honest about how I'm feeling, what's going on with me, and that, you know, I apologize, which sometimes for whatever reason is really hard for me to do. And I don't know what that's all about. I mean, it really is. Sometimes even in my head, I'm like, just say you're sorry. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's giving up control thing. I'm definitely aware of it. But
that's probably a good thing to sit with.
Yeah, I have, because it's like I'll think about it, but like the words they won't pass my lips. So it's really just communicating and coming from a place of love and gratitude and, you know, acceptance and just awareness, because I certainly didn't mean to make him feel bad. Mm-hmm. You know, right. That's never my intent. So I mean, and that's what Dr. Ive talks about too. Relationships come down to communication, right? Yeah. So 56 years old, I'm still learning.
Quality, you say quality of the relationship is the quality of communication. And that's in anything.
Absolutely, any relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And now you can even use Chat GPT if you're like, I don't know what to say to my husband. You're like, hey, write a soft tone message to my
Exactly. Make this empathetic and and caring. Although he'd probably know.
He probably would. He'd be like, "This sounds like AI to me, Kimberly."
Sometimes in those moments when you're completely in your head and can't even think, right?
Well, and then it's like reminding myself sometimes, get back in your heart. Get back in your heart.
Yes.
What would your heart say these mean things? Of course not.
Right.
You know, so just remind
that goes back to those moments where you're like, okay, let me just take a moment and locate me. Where am I right now?
Yep.
Who is showing up in this moment?
Yeah.
Yep.
I hear you. I just wanted to go through these because I just wanted to get your comment. I think it also is good for the audience that's listening.
Yeah.
These are ways that, and I did a search on ChatGPT because I was just curious. Ways that insecure women may use sex, because that's me. I'm talking about myself here because I was very insecure when I was young and through my 30s and stuff too. It's
Me
like
too.
It wasn't just teenage years.
Yeah.
But as a way to feel valued or wanted, if you feel wanted by men, I feel like you feel like you have more value in yourself. So it's like if you feel, sexually wanted by men, I still feel that way sometimes, you guys, just so you know. If I'm somewhere and some guy looks at me from across the room, I'm like, oh, there's a little shot of adrenaline or something that kicks in, like, oh, maybe he's interested. And that is a good feeling. It makes you feel good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's
those feel good hormones, oxytocin.
Yeah.
Stuff gets released, and
I think you still have to give yourself some credit, some grace, because I think being wanted and needed is a human thing.
Exactly.
Wanted and desired. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's anything wrong with that either.
Yeah.
Yes. To keep a partner from leaving. That's a way that you can use sex, which I get. You don't want that. I get that too. You don't want to lose, the fear of abandonment kind of thing kicks in with that one. But if you're using it if you use sex as a measure of self-worth rather than mutual intimacy. So that is kind of how I did it. It was like, if I was more valuable if I was able to perform sexually. And I know I'm talking like I'm going deep with my own stuff, but I don't care because I'm not ashamed anymore about that kind of stuff. But as a way to gain approval or praise, that's pretty obvious. To avoid conflict or make up for something. So that's another way.
Make up sex all the time, right? Oh, some of the best sex, makeup sex. It's like, well, it's
and that's unfortunately that's something that even in society we talk about regularly.
Yep.
It's like it's almost like it's a thing now, where makeup sex is a thing, like you're striving for. Well, if you don't have the major conflict, you don't have to have makeup sex. You know what I mean? But to feel in control, I have just so you guys know, this was definitely a big one for me. I felt in control and powerful if I was able to control those situations and be the aggressor. I a lot of times was the aggressor. I was the one going after them. And I remember, you guys, this is so bad. But even back in the day, I think I challenged a guy one time just to be like I was more powerful. We were in a bar somewhere. This is, I don't know, long time ago. And one of the guys, I was kind of like, he was like, I was going back and forth with him as far as a control thing. And I said, I'll bet you I can pick up a girl before you can. And I challenged him to it, and I did.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even into girls.
Yeah.
That way. But it's like, it was me trying to be like in control and powerful because it made me feel better in that moment about myself. I even got a phone number from a girl and just threw it away after I left the place. But it's like, what inside of me needed to do that?
Yeah.
To try to prove some sort of value in myself. I mean, come on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the shameful stuff I'm talking about. Stupid crap like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a search for how women may feel about sex, detached or disconnected from their own pleasure, ashamed or guilty. And even once I had a child, I felt very ashamed. I felt like sex was naughtier or dirty or something because I was a mom now. And I just felt very different about it when I had a child. I don't know if you can relate to that, but I felt very different and disconnected from it after I had a baby.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had that feeling. No. My relationships have always been, I've always been in very long relationships. I did have my twins at a very young age. I got pregnant at 17 and had them when I was 18. that was a pretty abusive relationship. But so I did have them young, mentally and physically abusive. So there was a lot of trauma there. I learned a lot in that relationship though, but I came out of that relationship with a lot of pain and a lot of fear. And then I went right into my relationship with my husband, who's my ex-husband now. And I unfortunately took so much pain out of that relationship, and then I took the control part into the relationship with my husband, where there was a little bit more. He was a little bit more passive, and I had more control in that relationship. And we had two more boys together. And it wasn't physically abusive, a lot of emotional, but not physical. And I feel like I was more of an abuser, to be honest. If I'm being completely transparent, I did more of that abusing. And now I think I am just at a point in my life, Michelle, going into my 50s. I've learned two completely different relationships for most of my life, because I only really had two relationships, and had two children with those relationships. But I just don't feel like I did it right either time. And I went from one bad to I swung the pendulum to the next, really just trying to control everything. I had no control to trying to control everything, and that didn't work either. To now just really trying to work on healing myself and figuring out what were the things, where did it disrupt in my life, and a lot of it came back to my parents' relationship and the things that I did not learn well from that relationship and the fears that I had, and to heal from that. But now going forward, I think purity for me is important, and for me to really be okay with my values and non-negotiables, and be okay with waiting until that person arrives.
Yeah. I love that, Terry.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I had my daughter as well when I was 18 in abusive relationship, mentally and physically. And then her brother a couple of years later with that same person. And then it was to another relationship after that. And like you said, that you just bring that stuff with you from relationship to relationship to relationship, never healing yourself, never working on yourself. It just gets worse and worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And this one was so painful with my marriage and going through this experience, that I knew the greatest gift that I could give not only God, but myself and my kids, was to heal myself. And because my children unfortunately paid for a lot of the trauma that I had throughout my life. And I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is, at least that I want to, I definitely had a lot of trauma growing up and whatever, but I don't blame my mom, my dad, whatever. I mean, this is my stuff to deal with, and that's what I'm committed to doing. This podcast is a part of that. Yeah. Being a part of a book is a part of that. Talking about these things, at least the first time we kind of told our story, it felt very uncomfortable for me. Like, gosh, should I be spreading this? And my husband was the one that said, you know what, honey, this is your story. Mm-hmm. Yes. And it deserves to be told. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, what anybody else does. And my life, I'm 56 years old. I mean, my life is my life, and I can make, of it whatever I choose. So it's not to blame anybody. It's actually to have gratitude, right? Because all of those challenges and all those things that happened are why I am who I am today.
Yes.
Without them, who knows? So
it's actually part of your journey.
Absolutely.
And it's part of you. You're not, it's not who you are. It was part of your story, but it's not you. You're not your circumstance.
No, but it's taking accountability for me, my choices, my decisions, and not blaming somebody else.
Which is why you've had your freedom, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. And I don't want anybody to feel like too that there's shame in having sex. I mean, I'm a, I don't want, I know there's conversations that are had. I see there's a podcast that I watch called Call Her Daddy, where they have very, really, I don't know, graphic isn't the right word,
Explicit.
but very honest conversations about sex. It's called Call Her Daddy. It's a podcast. It's very, very, very popular. And there's not shame in it from that perspective, but they also talk very deeply about different connections. So I don't want to feel like we're talking about the fact that you can't, that for those that are having sex, whether it be in a marriage or out of marriage or whatever, it doesn't matter. There's not shame in that. The key to this conversation is for you to have awareness around your, with yourself around what are you doing these things? What are you doing it for? Are you doing it for you? Are you doing it for somebody else? Are you concerned about it? Or do you, whatever the thing is for you, the conversation is really about awareness about what's going on, and being able to, work on that and work on yourself and loving yourself. It has nothing to do with the act itself or who you're doing it with. It's more about the deep dive inside is what the conversation is really about.
I think it's just honoring you and your choices.
Yeah.
And being okay with that, being okay with it.
So this is the question. What are you doing now, Terry? Are you actually putting yourself out in the dating world? Are you kind of not doing that, or what are you up to?
I've kind of gone out a little bit. Like I said, I am completely. I've got a lot going on in my life. If things happen within my journey and places that I put myself in the place that I am, which for me, it's a lot of personal development. And so I love going to retreats and stuff. So if there happens to be someone there that we end up meeting and it aligns with what I'm doing, I'm all for that. I've gone on some blind dates and done some of that, but, and I've enjoyed that, but I feel I've had some recent, experiences with, people that I love that, there's this rough stuff going on in relationships. And I had to take step back a moment and go, man, I had this immense amount of gratitude just saying, being in a relationship is complicated. And it is two people that have their own stuff going on, have their own beliefs and their own paradigms, their own journeys. And right now I'm content and I am just enjoying my life. And I'm enjoying the place that I'm at and the things that I'm doing for myself and the growth that the Lord has given me and my own spirituality within that with Him. And so I feel very content with where I am. And I believe when it happens, it'll be the right time. And so I just feel like I'm not rushing it. I'm not like dating sites or trying to make things happen. I'm just okay with where I'm embracing where I'm at.
Well, and Terry, what you said earlier about, being alone versus being lonely. You can be in a relationship and be lonely. I've been there.
Yes.
Right.
100%.
And that is the worst. Feels
the worst.
So, just keeping that in mind too. And you're content, but I think you're more than content. You are fulfilled.
Yeah.
I am fulfilled.
You know what I mean? And
I just have to say something though. The other day I was watching a softball game with my granddaughter and we got into this conversation and I was saying that it was kind of around this. There was a reason we were talking about it, but I was just saying that. And I happened to was just saying how I was content. I can do what I want. And as I started to say that, she looks at me and she goes, Grandma, she goes, you can do what you want, when you want. You don't have to spend your money and tell anyone what you're doing with it. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. High five, girlfriend.
I just have to laugh because she was like, my dad and us went to the mall and we went to Lululemon and he was like, how much money are you going to spend? And it was so funny. I just had to crack up. And it just reminded me I am just going to have gratitude in this season and just be so grateful for the happiness and contentment. And like you said, Kimberly, the fulfillment that I have in this season of my life. I am truly grateful.
Yes.
Absolutely. Love it. If there's anybody that's listening or watching, we would love it if you comment. If there's any, if you've had similar experiences or something we talked about today resonated with you, we'd love to hear. If you could, post something in the comments or share this out or like and subscribe and share this out, we would love it. We really appreciate you being here as we continue to move forward. We're going to have some guests coming up in the future here. We've had some interest in folks that want to talk to our listeners or, provide some value to those that are listening to this podcast. So we're so happy that you're here, and thanks for listening, and we will continue on. You guys have any final thoughts?
I thought, are we going to share our takeaway moment for the week or something that we're working?
Sure, go for it. Yeah, please. Go ahead.
You go ahead. Do you have one?
No, I don't.
I
think it was this. It was actually this, Terry, because this has been on my mind. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Did it help?
Yes, it did.
Okay. For me, I just have to say, I wanted to bring up our mastermind today again, because we had this crazy aha moment. Our coach, I feel like it was a trap.
What did he do?
And we all fell into it, right? He had us score our week on a level from 1 to 10 of how we did, like working towards our goals and things that we're working on and things like that. And we were all, of course, as we do in our humanity, we were all our own judge,
critic,
executioner. Yeah. And so all of us kind of didn't take away any good from it, right? We were all like focusing on the bad. And and at the end, he just was like, it was like this aha moment of we could have taken a 10 out of 10. Like we were just like, even like Michelle said, well, if we did 10 out of 10, maybe we were like bragging or something. We didn't want to give ourselves too much credit. But we could have said, you know what? It was a 10 out of 10 because maybe I didn't get all the stuff done I wanted to do as far as like building a program or whatever, but I completed my 2 courses and got a great grade on it. And I moved forward. And it was just like this aha moment, like, oh my gosh, we could still be moving forward and do very well, be doing very great in our life and still not give ourselves credit.
Yeah.
So it was totally a test, though. It was a test because he wanted to hear what we were going to say.
Did you all fail?
Every one of us said focus on the negative. Every one of us in the group. And even after we listened to the people in front of us and we heard the Dr. Ed working with them, we still so stupid. I'm like,
that's hilarious.
Oh
at the end, when he said it, and I just went, Dr. Ed, I could have given myself a 10 and said this, and he's just like, yeah.
This morning before mastermind, he's probably like, how can I get them today?
That was great awareness. So,
it was great awareness.
It was. Sometimes when we think, and for everybody out there, sometimes when we think we're failing and we're not moving forward or doing things right, sometimes we have to go look at the stories that we're telling ourselves.
Yes.
Is this true?
Yeah.
Yep.
And who says so, right?
And I love, and I think you said this, Michelle, last week, about, somebody else's opinion of you is isn't your fault. And I love that. You reminded me when you said that last week, and then something happened the other day, and I had said something to Nelson about it. And he goes, what? And I go, yeah, what other people think of me is none of my business. He goes, yeah. Oh, I like that. And I'm like, it's so true. Like, oh, well, so what?
Oh, well, so what?
Yep.
Love it.
Was that what? Do you have a takeaway for this week, Kimberly?
Just keep shining. 1% better each day.
Yeah.
Only
keep shining. There's another song that's in my head.
No,
I think it's Dionne Warwick.
Oh, he's on me. For sure.
That was the world song. That was the
one. That's what friends are for. Yeah.
Yes. That was the one with Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
We are the world. We are the people.
None of us are singers.
No.
We do have a day job. We do have a day job.
But I'm a 10 out of 10 for singing. I'm a 10 out of 10.
That's right.
10 progress is perfection. 10 out of 10.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you guys for joining us this episode. We appreciate it. We love all of you. I had a heart shirt on earlier, but I got something on it. I had a huge heart. I was going to wear that one today, but I got stuff on it, so I had to take it off. But thanks, you guys. We really appreciate it.
Can I say something to say goodbye to everyone? I just want to tell everyone out there to be light out there, because to someone, you are someone's light.
Yes.
Yep. Give yourself
love that,
grace.
Terry.
Give yourself grace.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you all.
All right. Thanks so much. We appreciate it, everyone. Bye-bye.
See you next week. Bye.